All right. Give me 1 second. All right, so our group here is called the Flight Crew. We're group A36, and our advisor is Dr. Julie Jasmalski, and our coordinator is Dr. Laura Riggio. Since the three of us will be part of the first graduating class of industrial and systems engineering majors, we just wanted to define exactly what that is and what makes ISE a unique field of study. So industrial engineering is an engineering profession that is concerned with the optimization of complex processes, systems, or organizations by developing, improving, and implementing integrated systems of people, money, knowledge, information, or equipment. While industrial engineering practices originate from military use and is now mostly found in the world of manufacturing operations, ISE principles can be applied to a whole range of fields, and our project is aimed at utilizing those principles to optimize the Temple University After Dark bus system known as FLIGHT. In almost all cases of that industrial and systems engineering is used is to improve services and systems. Data analysis is an integral part to finding comprehensive and proper solutions. Our FLIGHT project is no different. This type of operations research approach is commonly found in supply chain analysis and operations, whereas ISEs follow this type of operations research in any and all types of fields that collect data and have room for operational improvement. While we will not have a physical product nor traditional ways of following our senior design approach, our project still follows the same engineering design, test methods, design of experiment, and design thinking approach. So FLIGHT is Temple University's After Dark bus system that utilizes the TapRide app to request a ride to and from locations within the flight map included on the right side of the slide. It was designed to work like a carpooling service that groups people together who request from one general area and want to be delivered to another. While this is a great idea in theory, that type of system is only truly beneficial and effective when operating over large distances with more direct routes to and from drop-off points. However, the TapRide system was implemented over 1.8 square miles of dense, mostly unidirectional streets. Because of this, FLIGHT currently operates more like an Uber or Lyft service. And this is because TapRide concludes that it makes the most sense to only deliver 1 or 2 people at a time, because the odds of more than 2 people going from one area of 1.8 square miles to another is pretty slim. So our project seeks to propose a different solution to meet demand better.
So from personal use and peer feedback, FLIGHT is widely seen as inefficient and not worth the wait. FLIGHT's current system only meets about 66% of its monthly demand. This only represents about 9% of the student body that lives on and off campus. Majority of the ride cancellation can be attributed to extensive wait times, about 11.7 minutes of wait time for the bus, plus about another 8.5 minutes of time on the bus. So a little over 20 minutes average of total time in the system. This is not assumed because when a ride is canceled, the user is asked for feedback, and majority of the feedback is in reference to the wait time being too long. The bus has a rider capacity of 16 passengers, but it barely fills half of its capacity per trip, and as a result, the wait times are longer, and there is an unnecessary amount of fuel consumption and carbon emissions. And we want to comply with Goal 11 of the UN Sustainable Development, which is to create a more resilient, sustainable, and inclusive system.
Our goal for this project was to design a new system that was capable of meeting the FLIGHT demand using only the existing FLIGHT infrastructure that Temple already has in place. This redesign had to come from a place of understanding of the current state of the system, and we developed that through interviews with the FLIGHT system coordinators, who are actually our sponsors, who are here today for this project, and the data that we used from the sponsors from 2018 and 2019. 2021 and 2020 data was not very helpful, as it was mostly COVID.
Our input analysis primarily consists of grouping raw data so that an online mapping application called GeoCodio could appropriately map the pickup and drop-off points for every hour of the flight operations. We would like to quickly point out that we chose to only focus on ridership data from October 2018 because October is the only academic month that Temple does not have any days off, meaning flight was run every day of the month, and also because, as Therese said, 2018 was the last non-COVID year, so ridership does not reflect social distancing precautions.
We concluded that a traditional bus system would be the best fit solution for the new FLIGHT redesign because we really wanted to prioritize safety over convenience. Although it is convenient to have a ride directly from your door to the next door that you're going to, it doesn't necessarily pick up all of the demand that students want. So a lot of students see that wait time and end up walking instead of actually taking a flight because of the wait time. We also saw that the distribution of demand shown here on this heat map would fit a bus system because the demand is generally centered around campus, as you can see in the middle, with a pretty circular ring right around campus of where students generally live. They live off campus. The traditional bus system also fits the most of our requirements the best. A bus system is very fuel efficient. Again, it prioritizes safety, and it generally maximizes capacity as it takes students who are going in one direction all together, not necessarily in an individual trip, but into the general direction. We also really wanted to reduce that wait time between buses, so that's very customizable with a traditional bus system.
So as you can see on the left, this initial heat map shows all flight requests made for pickup and drop off are within Temple's geofence area that is shown to the right. So we compare some initial heat maps to
So after identifying some of those key demand hotspots on our heat maps, these were our proposed bus loops. Each loop is represented by a unique color, blue being our bus route 1 west, orange is for bus route 2 south, and purple is for route 3 east, and the student center there is represented by that star icon. While this is a quick slide here in our presentation, the actual act of creating the heat maps, identifying demand hotspots, and designing a comprehensive bus routes around this was actually quite complex and time consuming.
So this is where our last presentation left off, and our next big step that we just completed is making the simulation and actually testing our results. Queuing theory is a major field of industrial engineering, and this studies lines, wait times, and how to optimize queues to create the most efficient system. For a system as complex as a whole bus system spanning over a square mile in city blocks, we needed to employ software. Simio can take a lot of inputs that accurately represent real-life queuing scenarios. And if we made these models by hand, not only would it be extremely time consuming, but it also would be riddled with human error. The raw data that was given to us not only includes the successfully completed flight rides, but it also includes canceled requests. With this in mind, our heat maps reflect true demand, including that demand that the current system couldn't meet in the form of those requested but eventually canceled rides. So our heat map has all of the requested rides for the months that we heat mapped. The purpose of the heat mapping was to regroup our original data so that we can see exactly how many people place requests in certain areas at certain times. We wanted to find out where and when the hotspots are in order to do the most effective bus routes and stops for those routes. Our slide shows the data reorganization process from that raw data on the far left to GeoCodio heat maps in the middle, and then our final locational demand data that's in a format that's ready for our simulation in. So to further break out that last piece on the slide, here's an example. This is the library bus stop on Route 1, and we'll actually carry this stop exam through the next few slides. This chart shows all of the pickups and all of the drop-offs within one block of the library in hour time blocks over a full flight overnight shift, averaged out for the entire month. As you can see on the top right, we have the percentage of students required to be dropped off at the library. So this is the percentage of students included that took Route 1, that would have taken Route 1, that were dropped off at the library in the entire month. On the bottom left, we have the average time between pickup requests at the library. So that's our inter-arrival time.
So continuing to use that library example, this is what a bus stop would look like in our simulation. So after a bus has passengers on it already, it follows the path starting at the bottom here, and it's first met with this library 1 node. You can then see in the process at the top right here that 8.32% of the time bus drops off a passenger, and the other percent of the time the buses and the passengers continue on to the library 2 node. After this, the bus will then pick up anybody waiting at the library source, and students arrive at that source here with an exponentially distributed inter-arrival time of 16.25 minutes. So all the inter-arrival times on our bus network were also verified graphically to follow this exponential distribution. So that's why it's entered as an exponential distribution there.
So on the left side, it shows what our proposed bus loops will look like based on our heat map demand. And on the right side, it shows all three of our simulation we created based off those proposed routes. So this is an example of our simulation running one 8-hour shift at 25 times speed. As you can see, the three buses are represented by the green vehicles and the students are represented by the green triangles. The buses continue around the loop, picking up and dropping off students in a way that corresponds with each bus stop, pickup and drop off distribution as discussed before. Our group ran time trials around each stop in our simulations and added that time to the model's programming to more accurately represent the transit time a flight bus would experience while driving these routes. Additionally, each bus in the simulation is programmed to park and delay for every individual pickup and every individual drop-off to more accurately represent the time it takes to load and unload passengers.
So here's a quick list of assumptions and uncaptured characteristics from our simulations. So the first note is that each shift was replicated 1,000 times and these outputs were averaged. So any wait times that you see in our results, that's not just one night of flight simulation running, that is 1,000 times and then those averages. So we're getting a large group of data. Just to clarify, a shift runs from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. and that's an 8-hour shift overnight when the buses are running. Also, each shift happened independently of the other, so that means that the system would reset for each replication. If someone was waiting at 3:01 a.m. one night for a ride, they wouldn't be continued in the system at 7 p.m. for the next day of rides. One note that our system does not capture is the sporadic street closings or stopped cars. There's a lot of traffic in North Philadelphia, and we did take realistic times of driving these routes into our system, but we can't calculate for all the street closings that could happen in the next year and two. Just another note, our simulation has the characteristics of average travel time on an average day with average demand. So again, we're not taking into consideration all of the construction or traffic, just an average day.
So here we have some of our output data from Simio that depicts the system's simulated arrival and drop-off using the blue lines and compares those to our input arrival and drop-offs using the red line. And so the average difference between the simulation and our real-life data input is only 0.67%, meaning that the models accurately represent and simulate real-life events. And so on the left is our current wait times for the current system with an average of 11.7 minutes and over 800 accounts of wait times over 20 minutes. The table in the middle is our official project conclusions of student wait times in minutes for each loop and for a certain amount of buses assigned to that loop. Because Route 1 has the most demand, we decided to allocate 3 buses to Route 1 and 2 buses to both Route 2 and 3. This leaves us with a system-wide average wait time of only 5.51 minutes, which is a 53% time reduction compared to the current system. Something to keep in mind at this point as well is that the wait times in the current system are only for those 67% of rides that were actually completed. Our models accounted for all 100% of requests in that time period, and our wait time is still 53% less while meeting 33% more demand.
So for our functional requirements, the first requirement was that the hourly cost of the bus did not change. This was met considering no extra buses, equipment, or hours of operation are necessary. A second requirement was to increase the number of shared rides, which a traditional bus system inherently does. Third, our new system no longer requires any software to run, so this requirement was met. Our next requirement is to decrease the amount of cancellations. This was met because our solution met all current demand while still maintaining lower wait times. The next requirement falls under the same argument that all of demand is met and wait times is still shortened, in turn encouraging more ridership and increasing popularity. And finally, we successfully shortened the average queue length by 53%.
Our first constraint on our design constraints is that the location of pickups and drop-offs must be either on campus or within 1 block of the requested spot. Our heat mapping and location-based demand check this box off. Our second constraint is about the flight perimeter, so that was easy to meet as all of our models stay within that original flight geofenced area. Third, our simulation was programmed to only allow a maximum of 15 people on a bus at one time. That's just the bus capacity that flight has, and that capacity is accurately represented, as we didn't allow the simulation to add more than 16 people. The fourth, the way our simulation was made, it's difficult to conclude whether or not the overall time on a bus is longer than it was before. This doesn't take away from the fact that the new system successfully keeps students off the streets, even though it means their bus ride may be a little longer than before. So we think because that wait time is shorter, students would be okay with a slightly longer ride if that is the case. Our operational schedule was not changed in our models, as our assumptions slide described earlier. We did not meet the negotiable constraint to implement a system that gradually introduced buses for the busier time of the night. That step can be discussed later on in our next steps.
So for our project costs, we only had two expenses, which was the Simio software for its simulations that the free version could not give us, and then the Geocodio where we uploaded the each address of the demand pickup and drop off to get converted into heat maps.
Here is our project timeline, and this starts with meeting our flight sponsors and discussing flight's current operations, and moves into cleaning initial data, analyzing the service distributions, creating the Geocodio heat maps, establishing our appropriate bus routes, and then modeling those routes in Simio. Our major steps that we have just presented on, we're analyzing that Simio output data, and now we're here doing our final presentation. In our future steps, we're actually going to meet with another project group that's creating a legacy project to sort of push this project even further next year.
So to go over what Therese was just mentioning, our team's vision of where to bring this project next includes introducing timetables to the simulation to more accurately reflect requests by the hour rather than using an average inter-arrival rate. And we imagine this will produce even more accurate wait time data. Second, this is where a bus rollout plan could be introduced based on demand timetables so that there's always the optimal amount of buses on the road in an effort to reduce carbon emissions and overall system costs. Additionally, this legacy project could implement GPS tracking for each bus to give users real-time location updates so they don't have to stand and wait until they see the bus, but rather stay inside until they know the bus is close. And this could be integrated into a new in-house app that is unique to Temple's environment and can monitor online usage and popularity. And finally, without the use of a tap ride app for placing requests, it would be difficult to attain ridership data the way we did. So the installation of Alucard scanners on each of the bus could give us the ability to record when and where pickups are taking place. And that's all we have for our presentation. And we'd like to open it up for about 10 minutes of questions.
I'd like to say something to the Temple people that are here, not the Temple students, but the Temple people that are working with Flightbus. Has this been our first class of industrial systems engineers, this group? Are they helpful to you? Someone would answer. Rich?
Hi, this is Rich. Yeah, no, I think it's very helpful. I'd like if someone could email me this slide presentation so I can review it, please.
No problem.
Yeah, this is Jerry too with Temple. I'm really impressed with it. I like the presentation. I'd like to take a look at it with our team. And you guys did a great job. I really like it. And I think that there's some great potential there. We'll just get together with our team and take a look at it.
Thank you.
I'm going to suggest that possibly these kids will be on campus for another couple of weeks. I'm sure, am I right, Dan? You guys be willing to make a presentation to the team, basically this presentation and anything else? Would the Temple people be interested in that?
I think I can ask Mark. Our team might be interested in meeting up and going through it again with them.
Okay. Well, I'm proud of you guys. All right.
Yeah, great job. Great job, guys. Beautiful.
It was a great job. I'm very impressed with the data. You took a lot of data and compiled it into in a very cogent way, which is more than I could say that I could do. It was a great job.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm John Johnson. I'm actually in transit. So I just wanted to say you guys did an awesome job. Great data, some great points. And the operations team is actually on the call. So we actually saw the presentation. So I hope to see you, that you can send it to Rich so we can look at it some more. But thank you.
Sure, definitely we'll do that.
Well, we hope our industrial and systems engineering people can tackle other Temple problems as we go on, because it's a great field that really can serve a lot of different systems on campus. Hillary, you want to say something?
Yes, I'm wondering if you'll take a question from, I'm a Temple parent, and I'm just curious about because of what's going on at Temple, and because so many parents are concerned for security with their children, how long would it take to implement something like this?
I understand that as a question directed at us. And it would be my understanding that this could be implemented tomorrow if there was enough social media publications that inform students that this is the new system that exists, and the drivers of the buses were told to just go in that loop rather than follow their tap ride iPad that they have.
How many buses does Temple currently have at their disposal? And you may have gone over that.
Yeah, it's either 7 or 8. I can't quite remember, but our design only needed 7.
So really, they have the equipment that they need. They probably have do they have the staff that they need right now?
For our system, yes. That was one of our design constraints, is that it has to fit within the current infrastructure. It doesn't require anything additional.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And great job, everyone. This is really fantastic.
If I can just add to that for 1 second, I think in deference
Julie,
to the safety
Julie, identify who you are, because you're the mom of this whole thing.
no, hardly. These guys did everything. I'm the director of the ISE program, Julie Drzmalski. And if I could just add one thing there, in deference to the safety of the drivers, I think that there should, maybe tomorrow might be a little bit of a jump, but I did get your point, Dan. It can be implemented soon. But we need to have some system about making sure that it's only Temple students getting on the bus and things like that. So that's one of the things we're actually working on next year, which is to have things like card readers and apps and stuff to make it more implementable. But yeah, I mean, it's not, monetarily speaking, it shouldn't be out of reach.
So does that mean we might have to wait a whole year before we could see something like this
I don't think an app is necessary. The students have an idea of how often the bus would come by, and that's really what the app is for. But I think that would be up to the operations people. I think you at least want to show an ID, at least have students show an ID.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I
definitely.
If I could just add, there's more to just implement something like this. We would have to take a look at a lot of other different things as well. That's why we'd have to take a look at the presentation. There are also some contractual obligations and things that we'd have to take a look at. So wouldn't a lot of these employees are contractual employees. So we would have to take a look at that as well. So those are things we'd have to take a look at before we can make those changes.
The other question I have, can I ask you a question, David?
Yes.
The other question, of course, here is that you can install the best and the most secure system. How would the system enforce the students' adherence to this bus route? In other words, they basically understand and implement themselves.
I'm not sure I quite understand your question. Do you mind?
Well, I mean, you can set up these bus routes, but then you have to also train the students to use it.
Well, to be fair, only 9% of the student body uses the current system.
Right.
And so I think and a lot of that has to do with word of mouth about how inefficient the wait times tend to be. And so we're assuming that with our project being implemented and a few posters put up around campus, a comprehensive student government social media initiative, I'm sure students could catch on pretty quick.
Now, the other question I have is, I mean, again, this is not really unique to Temple. This is really the whole city. And in fact, thinking about there's so many universities in the city, do you think this is perhaps a project that can be approached to, I guess, can be presented to the city itself to provide such routes on a regular basis?
Yeah, I don't see why not. And I think many professional transit authorities do this in-house type of analysis consistently, including
Right.
SEPTA in their bus system. Yeah.
Right. I'd like to say one thing. I misspoke. No good deed goes unpunished. I said Julie's the mom of the program. I didn't realize there are a lot of moms on this thing. Julie is the professor in charge of the program, not the. So I misspoke. I just want to make sure Julie is recognized as the professor who runs the program.
Daniel, can I ask you one quick question?
Yes, please.
The model you have, that's going to require students to walk to a stop, potentially at 2 a.m. Did you say that it's any stop will be less than a block from any location?
Yeah. Yeah. One of our requirements there was that either a stop or on that bus loop would be on campus or a block from where current demand is. And our assumption there with goes back to our sentence about convenience over safety, and that while door-to-door service is more convenient and is safe, it requires the system to take much longer routes that are not as direct. And because of that, a lot of student wait times are so long that students will just end up walking their entire way home rather than sit inside and wait because they don't have 45 minutes to sit and wait. And so this system prioritizes that safety over convenience because it'll keep more students from walking that entire distance.
Yeah, I'm
The
going to look and
maximum walk
see
is a
if
block
we
and
had
a half, correct?
Yeah, the maximum walk was an average of a block and a half.
Okay.
All right, so we got another session coming up. Any other questions? So group, your job is to send them the copy of this and then stay in touch with the Temple group. And if they want a presentation, to be prepared to give that. Okay.
Will do. Thank you all very much for coming.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, thank you,
Other
everyone.
questions? Okay.
Great job.
Yes, great job. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.